did you come straight up here, or did you walk around the church? Okay, there will be some time. I highly recommend to walk around because it's a really beautiful church. It's a late Baroque church, and it's actually a pilgrimage place for Lady Mary. That's why you see on the high altar there is Mary. Yeah. So that's why it's called Mariatrost, which means Mary's consolation. And it's typically kind of, now it's connected to the city via the tramway, but when it was built, it was really outside the city. So it's not, that's why it's on this hill, and it's like really a pilgrimage from the city. Or it used to be in the 18th century when the church was built. And also, like, I think the wooden construction here, I think this is from the period when the church was built, but the organ itself, the pipes, is from 1993. So they use the same architectonical forms and just put in a new instrument. And also, this whole building used to be a monastery. So if you walk around, you see it's a quite large structure. It's not just the parish church, but it used to be monastery and pilgrimage place. But still, so I think I now start with the official program.
First people do.
Okay.
Simply. Yeah, probably you can.
Yeah. So, there's one more thing that I just want to point at. This sheet here, like my colleagues, we designed actually a website where you can find lots of the things that I'm demonstrating here. Also here in short videos. So the idea is called Organon, and there's a QR code if you're interested. So you can find a lot of information on organ and also contemporary ways of using organ. Here is kind of a source of information. Okay, so today the structure, first I would like to really start from zero and try to explain how does an organ work, what is it, how does it function. And then after like 1.5 hours or so, I would like to make a little break. And about 4 o'clock, I will play 2 pieces, 1 improvisation. And I think it would be nice for you to, of course, stay up here, but for the concert, it's better to go downstairs. Because when you play, you always play for down there, not for up here. And it also might be interesting to see the difference of sound that you get when you're sitting here, and then the sound that you hear when you're downstairs. Okay, so when we think of the organ, it's very important to understand that the organ is not an instrument like a violin, a cello, or a piano that has a very clearly defined form. But an organ is, let's say, it's a concept of an instrument that finds very different realizations in each instrument that you will encounter will be different in one or another way. So what I'm going to present here is the basic principles, and you can find them in all the instruments, but the details, they will vary from instrument to instrument. And of course, the sound quality very much depends on the resonant space. So if you, this is something that you hear, sounds up here are very different from sounds downstairs. So there are there are 3 basic, or let's say 4 basic components of an organ. One thing is what you see here. It's keys and pedals plus stops. This is kind of the thing that you are encountering and that you're using as a plate. This is one element. And then you see pipes. Here are lots of pipes. All these boxes are full of various pipes. So these are the actual sound producing sound. They are the things that are producing sound. And then there is the third element is the connection between the pipes and the keyboards and the manuals. And the fourth element is the wind, because it's a wind instrument. So we need blowers to produce airstream. So, and I guess that's common for all organs. All organs have these four components. The other element, the other thing that I want to say at the very beginning is we have here these manuals and pedal. So some organs have more, some have less. 3 manuals is quite large already, and basically it means that we have, or let's say, each manual is actually one complete instrument by itself. So an organ is basically a stacking up of several instruments that are in themselves basically already complete instruments. And this is also something that you can actually see. You see, there is a box, there is a box, there is a box, and there is a box. And so we have like a pedal and 3 manuals and 4 boxes. So it's quite clear. Huh? So each manual is kind of controlling one of these boxes. Now we can unbox the organ. And maybe you can just come a little bit closer and have a look inside. And you will hear. We do it in 2 groups or something. First show. This is a little bit low. There's an electrical ball that produces air, and this air goes into this box here. And you see this is filled with air. And on top of the box, there's a weight. So that we get air blown in, and the second element is weight kind of exerts some pressure, additional pressure on the air. And then you see all these channels, these pipes, that are kind of transporting the air to the pipes. You have a person who was pumping. So, yeah, this is, I think it's very important to understand. Like if you, like Johann Sebastian Bach, if you wanted to practice organ, he needed some slaves to do the pumping.
That's why you're denying still.
So you can imagine that until the 19th to practice the organ, you have to use the harpsichord or piano, because you couldn't like have people pump 8 hours. Okay, but what you see is really very basic. It's the air that was produced, and then these tubes that are distributing the air. As it is a very large organ, there is actually a second blower in the other part. But still, so this is also a commonality. Every organ has some blower that produces air that is pumped into these bellows, and that's why the reason why I want to use this weight on the bellows is because what is really essential and important is that the air pressure stays as constant as possible. So it's not like an accordion where you can actually control the air pressure with your movements. The basic idea is just the opposite. It's like key. You don't want to have any bellow changes, but you want to have an extremely constant air pressure. That's why you do these weights. You have 2 systems, so to speak. Okay, so there's one set of bellows, and there's also another one in here in this box. Okay, so then we have these, you've seen these tubes that are bringing the the air to the pipes. And now I will open another box. So here. Now you can see, maybe you can also come a little bit closer, and it's easy to see with not necessary, but what you can see is that the pipes, they are all standing on a surface, and underneath the surface there is the air is coming underneath the surface, so that you have here, like let's say a channel or a tube underneath, and all the pipes are on top. And the pipes are ordered, and you can see this, they're ordered in this way, and each series of pipes looks different, each rank looks different, which means that it produces a different kind of sound. And they are produced, they're standing like this chromatically, basically. That's why they have this kind of pure shape. So the wind is produced here, and there are tubes and pipes that lead the wind underneath the pipes, and then you see here, and I guess you have to really, I don't know if it's possible to see from outside, but what you see is if you move a rank here, you see that here is a, let's say, okay, can you see the connection here? Yeah. So I'm opening and closing the rank, basically. And if I do that, this means that now this, let's say, this channel on top of which the one row of pipe or rank of pipes is sitting is open. So, and this is the principle for all the organs. So whenever you pull a rank like this, underneath a rank of pipes, air flows in. But still we can't hear anything yet, because there is then the second layer of organization, which means, which is the keys. No, sorry. So let's take this one for instance. So if you don't use the rank, nothing is happening. If you just pull the rank, nothing is happening. But if you pull, and so this is also a standard principle for organs. You have these two layers, or let's say these two levels of hierarchy. One is to turn on the rank, the second is to press the key to produce a specific pitch. So we have wind goes underneath the pipes, and then you open two valves, one for the rank and one for the pitch. There are some, this is just the basic principles. Of course, we can go into detail and then we can spend years. It's just to understand the basic principle. Huh? And what is so beautiful about this instrument and all the instruments for 1800 is that all these connections are made with little wooden connectors. And you can, now I can open another box. Maybe you can take a look inside here. Then you see all these this very thin wooden structures. Now which can you see anything?
Yes.
So it's a very complex mechanical system that connects the keys to the So we have like hundreds of these little wooden connections that connect the keys to the pipes. this, and here also you see there's a second bellow, no?
Below, yeah.
So because it's a larger organ, we need a lot there. And so we have now these, again, these elements, and the thing that connects these elements is actually really manually, precisely crafted woodwork, basically. And this is the traditional and standard way of making organs until the middle of the 19th century. And then again, at the second half of the 20th century, people returned back to this traditional way of making organ, like this organ here is an example for that. But now I would like to add that, and this is really important to understand. In the 19th century and 20th century, they started to build even larger instruments, and the larger the instrument gets, the more complex it is, of course, to produce these wooden connections within the instrument. And so they started to invent different systems to connect the keys or the ranks to the pipes. And they are sometimes pneumatic, which means they use air pressure, like not to produce sound, but as a tool to switch, basically. Or they use electricity, like in the 20th century. And nowadays also, of course, MIDI and all these things. No? So, which has a very big disadvantage. This means that you just have a very clear on and off. You don't have any in between when you play. No? It's just just an electrical 0-1 type of connection. Here you have, and I will explain this afterwards, you have much more control over the sound because everything is done very basic, with very basic wooden connections. No? But this is an important information when you want to write for the organ, that you should try to find out what kind of connections the organ has, because this depends on this depends what kind of sounds you can produce.
I saw also wooden pipes for organs.
Yeah.
But here it's all metal pipes.
No, there are also wooden pipes. Yeah. So I will. You see here. Okay, you can't see, but there's already one row in there. Yeah? Okay. So I think that's really now the basic functionality of the organ. Is this clear for everybody? Because that's really the basis of everything. Yeah? Okay. And then let's go a little bit further into the types of sounds that we have. Actually, we have basically two ways of producing sound on an organ. One is labial pipes. It's basically like a recorder. It's like a flute or a recorder. And you can see like these pipes. They have a very sharp labium. The airstream is directed straight to the labium. The airstream is divided and starts to vibrate. And this is what produces the pitch. This is one thing. And the other family, so to speak, is what you can not really see here, but what these pipes are like this. These are reeds. And reeds are functioning like a clarinet or like basically like a clarinet. So you have a little reed or a piece of metal or whatever that is kind of covering the pipe, and then the airstream starts to move it and it vibrates and produces this kind of reedy sound. One example, and this is actually now what you can see here, the first row of pipes. It's out of tune, but still. So this is this kind of sound quality, this kind of color, this reedy, oboe, bassoon, whatever type. And when you go further back, you see this first pipes here. And this is a wooden pipe, and it's a flute. And it sounds something like this. Kind of flute-like, soft flute-like sound, and this is, let's say, a subdivision of the labial pipes. It's the wooden labial pipes. Of course, you can, and I think this is also important to understand that each organ builder, each region, each organ has different names for the stops, and maybe they are slightly different, but basically it's like 3 or 4 families, and then you have small variations of them. And this is a flute, and this you will find a sound like this on every organ. And sometimes has different names, but it's basically there for every organ. And then the other sound family is the principals. And this is actually the pipes that you can see usually on the prospect of the organs. It's also called in Latin A-stat, because they stand in the front. So this is the labium part of the pipe is similar, but it's made of metal, and so it has a very different sound quality, even though the type of sound production is the same. So you can hear. I guess it sounds like. So it's this kind of warm but still powerful, and let's say that's the typical organ sound. So that's what you would expect from organ sound. And then there is, let's say, a subgroup of this, which is the strings. So usually they're called like gamba or traditional. You have all the violas, and they sound like this. Sorry, it's very dense, very. Compare this with the gamba, then we have here principal gamba and a flute. Let's take this one. So this would be the types of labial sounds we have. And compared to that, again, a trumpet is. That's a reed, no? So these are the 4, or depend, I think 2 plus 3 types of sounds that you have, and that you can find basically on any large organ. And then you have to understand that organs are very local or regional instruments. So Spanish organs are very different from French organs and Italian organs, and both German organs are very different from South German organs. So yeah, it's very, very regional, but still you will find these 4 types on any organs, but like Spanish organs, they have more reeds and less flutes and so on. So the ratio of the sounds is different, but the basic principle is still the same. Okay, so these are the 4 types of sounds, and you can, if you look inside the box, you can easily recognize which kind of types are available. Is this clear so far? Okay, so this is also a really astounding thing. Then we go further. So we have now these let's say, labial pipes, and we take a principal. So this is the sound that I've shown here. Now, it's this kind of thing. This kind of sound. And now, this is called principal 8 foot. So 8 is, I can't turn it to you, but it's written here. So it's every stop has usually a number, and the number is only for practical reasons, because when you are fast changing stops, it's easier to find numbers than to read. But so the number has nothing to do with the sound quality, and it changes from every organ. And then you have the second line where you have an actual name of the pipe. And here, this is called the principal. And then you have the third number, which is 8 foot. So it's 8 plus this kind of comma. And this means that when you press C1, in German C1, I don't know what the middle C, let's say the middle C, it sounds exactly like you would expect the middle C to sound, or this A1 is 440 hertz. No? So this is what 8 foot actually means. And then you see I press the same key and press a stop that is called octave 4 foot. And you hear it sounds 1 octave higher. So see, this is principal 8 foot, this is octave 4 foot. It's the same type of pipe, it's just 1 octave higher. So you can easily, like if I, so now I play the octave, and now I just change the sound. So you could play like this also if you're bored or something. Okay, so this is also a basic principle. So you can press one key, and you have 2 lines sounding at the same time. And then we can go even once. We use one more stop, and what is happening now? 2 octaves. 2 octaves high. So we have 8 foot. I press one key. So it's like this. Manual stops up here. But so that's the meaning of these 2 foot, 4 foot things. And this is now I demonstrated this now with the principles, but you can also hear it here. Let me just check. Yeah, let's do this one. So it's a flute, 8 foot. Flute, 4 foot. And 8 foot and 4 foot together. So you have sometimes, yeah, it depends. There is no flute, 2 foot. It's on a different manual. It's here. So you have flutes in several octaves. And no, thank you, but I just want to add one more thing. So first order. Then there's one more thing that you have is one octave lower. So and then it's called 16 foot. So whenever you see 16 foot, this means that it sounds one octave lower than notated. And of course, as I said, you can combine all of them, so you press one. go through the whole key. No? Yeah, and now back to yeah.
Can you balance the stops?
No, that's done by the organ builder basically. So that's what if you intonate an organ, you try to balance stops. And of course, what is important to say is that when you have principal sounds, they are, so to speak, naturally more powerful and louder than the flute, and that's the idea. Also, it's not just different color, but also different dynamics, and that's basically natural like this because it's made of matter, but it's also something that the organ builder decides to make this, to intonate the organ and make the dynamic ratios. Now to the fifth. So here, for instance, they now, and when we compare it to this, so we have now parallel fifth. So I press, in this case, I press the C, but over here is a G. And if I press the C and G together, pull the fifth together, so you just move the fifth around. And this is called, there are different names, but usually it's called quinta or quint or fifth. And then the number that is written next to it is 2, uppercase 2 divided by 3, 2 to 3. So like the ratio in the old is 2 to 3. And the same is also available with thirds. So we have just so I press a C, and what we actually hear is an E. No? Is this clear? So you, and then of course you can, if you add the fifth like this, so you have a chord, no? You see, this is the difficulty of mechanical connections and things like this happen. So then usually it's called third or 3 to 5. No, that's the name of this sound, or tierce in French. So this is what these numbers mean, and also what they mean in terms of intervals that they're represented. Usually they're used in the high register, but some are also used in the low register, and then it's called Hintersatz, and then 2 to 3. So now you have 16 foot C, so it's one octave lower, and then if you pull this one. Octaves, 60 foot plus and then I fix to it in order to create one octave difference. It's almost inaudible, but it just creates more volume. It's like the function of a double bass in orchestra. And larger organs usually have a 32-foot stop, so 2 octaves lower than the key that you press. But this organ doesn't have one, and this 2 to 3 in the low register kind of simulates the existence of a 32-foot stop because it creates the fifth and the difference. different sound as well.
And sorry, how many hertz is the 32? 32 hertz, you know?
No. So
The foot, you know.
it's foot, yeah.
Yeah, but
So
you know
if
how many hertz is more or less?
So if you have the lowest key of the organ, this is kind of the cello C.
Okay.
And then if you have the sixth in foot, it's like a double bass, lowest C. And then 32 foot is one octave lower than the double bass.
Okay.
So it's, I don't know the hertz, it's like
16.
at the lower end of our perception. And then, for instance, very large buildings, for instance, in the St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, now they even have the 64 foot. And this is, I mean, you can live in these pipes. They're really huge. No? Okay. So this is this idea that you have like one color and you press one key and then you can play octaves for thirds and fifths at the same time. So you press one key and you have different octaves at the same time. Just for your information, like if you go back here, if you see these very large wooden they 6-foot pipes. Here they are on the back side of it. Okay. So this is the basic setup here. Is this understood and clear? Okay. Now, let's. Of course, now you can of course freely combine all these stops. No? For instance, what I do now. Sorry, I forgot one more thing. It's called mixture, which is the or sharp. So you have several fifths and octaves at the same time, and this is basically if you have fifth or quint, it's only one. If you have sharp or mixture, you have octaves and fourths and fifths at the same time, and this is what you would expect from this kind of classical type of organ ensemble, and that's this was what you know from horror movies. This is the organ ensemble, and these are the principal sounds. So you have all the principals: octave, 16-foot, 4-foot, 2-foot mixtures. That's like the most cliché type of organ sound. No? And this was actually in the history of organ building in the like 13th, 14th century. That's what you actually had. So you pressed one key, and then automatically you got this kind of sound. So you always had. So what you actually hear, this is a parallel organ. So the organ is basically already realizing a compositional structure. You have a Gregorian chant, like something, and then there's an organal. Not just an abstract instrument, but the music theory of the Middle Ages is kind of built already in the organ. That's why we have all this faith. And then in historical, what happened is that first they built only this type of sound, and then they started to separate the octaves, and that's why we have now these different ranks. But in the early organ music, whenever you press the key, you always have the fifth and the octave with them. Okay, so this is kind of the classical system. And then, as I just showed you, what I want that like here, as I said, this is a complete organ by itself. So, and this is actually the uppermost band. So I can so I have this kind of root sound here. As we've seen it. And we have a kind of a principal sound. All the types of sounds that are present in the organ in general are already in there in this one. There are more sounds, but it doesn't matter. So you understand that this is a complete organ all in itself. And in some small churches you have organs that are actually smaller than this little thing here. And then when you look here to this, you see there is another box. And when you look at the box, you see something happening now. So doors are closing and opening. And the idea of these doors is so it's a very, for me, it's a very crude way of controlling dynamics, which is open and close the box. But that's called swell, and that's why a manual like this is usually called in English swell or in German Schwellwerk. And as I indicated before, also here, so you have when we organ sound in there, and you can control this one with the dynamic foot pedal. And in this case, the setup is always a little different, but in this case, this is the second manual. And then the third manual, the first manual is in here and partly in here. But the majority of pipes is in here. And here on this in this box there is the pedal. Sound in the pedal. And then there's something special here in this organ. We have something that is called Fernwerk. This means remote. I don't know how to remote organ, but like this. And you can control it not very beautiful. So it's actually somewhere up there that it creates this kind of remote effect. And this was actually added afterwards. That's why it's using the same manual than the third one. Usually there should be a fourth manual, but they added it afterwards, so they're double using this one. And I was talking about at the beginning about the manual connection between pipes and an organ. And of course, in this case, there is no manual connection, but this is electrical. So they built actually an electrical connection between the keyboard here and the pipes that are somewhere out. Because this would be very difficult if you would have to build wooden connectors. Okay, so is this the structure clear for everybody, or do you have any? Yeah.
Okay, so there is only one region of the organ that you can control the dynamics. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's. I mean, this is with this organ. There are some organs that have two swells, but I think it's very safe to say that the majority of organs, if they have a swell, it's only one. To have several swells, it's possible, but not very common. And also, usually it's a smaller manual because, you know, if the pedal, it's almost impossible to swell because you have to build huge, large doors in order to control it. So usually it's a smaller manual. Yeah. And when it's also important to see the swell becomes more effective if you have more pipes. But very simple. For instance, if you just use one little. Of course, here, but if you have something like that. Audible. Particularly now you're sitting next to it, so it's but downstairs the effect will be, let's say, smoothed out by the reverb in the space. So if you really want to have this very effective, it's better to have lots of stops in the box to make it sound. Okay. These are basically let's say it's the classical way an organ is built and an organ is used. As you see, the classic playing technique is kind of similar to piano playing, but also not similar. When you see, just try to move the fingers as small as possible. You don't need any this kind of pianistic stuff, so you can just really play minimal amount of movement, and it's also, as you heard, no dynamics, no? And so you can play really this kind of fortissimo sound with the smallest movement of your little finger will produce the very loud sound. So the playing technique is basically much more reduced than playing on the keyboard, and as you see with the pedal, it's like a sort of manual. Of course, there are some limitations. It's hard, it's possible, but it's harder to play chords. Because actually the typical movement is maybe you think more of people playing writing for marimba or something like this. So traditionally in the 17th century, people basically always have left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Of course, you can play scales, but that's not the, let's say, it's possible, but it's not the most organistic type of writing. And you can see this sometimes in themes for in organ music. For instance, you have something like in the manuals, you have something in the pedals, because it's possible, but it's not so comfortable. It's not so, or ergonomically, it's not so common, but it's possible. And then, yeah, that's basically it. And of course, when you sit on the organ, you're almost floating here, no? Because your feet, you can't put your feet down. Your feet have to float on top of the keys the same way your hands. So that's why also you can't make too many movements because then you just lose your orientation. So basically the idea of playing organisms is not very, very minimal movements. Then you have to change the manual. There's so many things that you want to do so you can stay as stable as possible. Okay, so this is the classical side of it. And then I would like to show some techniques that are beyond the classical way of using working. I mean, one thing that is quite obvious is you can, of course, take any kind of mesh and block keys for as long as you want. So that's a very basic thing. You can easily block keys and thereby key chords, whatever you want for as long as you want. Then this is something that's very nice. It's a mechanical organism. So you can gradually add, or basically what you do is you open and close the valve underneath pipe. And this is like the food halfway to halfway. And of course this can do it also with try to just by not pulling the stop to the full position. Again, it's important to understand this doesn't work with electrical organs. For instance, in this area with the Fernwerk here, which is electrical. So it's on and off. You can't do that. So this is one of the most beautiful things. This only works with purely mechanical organs. But basically it works with all the stops. And what is interesting, I can show you some later, no? It's hard to critique, no? For some reasons, these pipes don't. So this is, you can use it and it's very interesting, but you can't really pin it down really precisely what is going to happen. It depends on the instrument and many things. But it's so if you want to use it as a composer, you have to find a way of making it open enough that it still works. I mean, if you look up here and look at the stuff, you see I made some little markings where with pencil because I start and nothing happens. And then here is the first, and then it always marks the place where it starts to sound. this is a very very fascinating source of different sounds. And of course, it's, for improvisation, it's very accurate and you can hear and really react. When you compose, you have to find ways of rotating it and of controlling it as the right amount of noise making. And as I said, you can also do this with this dog. Not 100% control. So you play it and you realize, okay, this is happening now, and then you react. So it's very fascinating and very full of possible so then, of course, one thing that you can do, and I guess you heard about this. you see how much air is in there that it takes such a long time to depending. Sorry,
How did you do that?
I just turned off the door.
Ah,
It's a very
okay.
simple effect.
You,
And-
you turned it off before you started
Yeah,
playing?
that was a switch.
I played the chord, and then I turned it off. Okay, I can show it. I do the opposite. I just play it. Sorry, this didn't work because. Now it was faster because I pressed more keys. Now it's right. So this is a effect. Again, also this effect only works on mechanical organs. With the electrical organs, if you turn off the electricity, the whole stuff will close and then it doesn't work. And then the other thing that is also interesting that you can work with, when you, for instance, have every organ passes. For instance, one stop. get this extremely complex pattern. And of course, when you can compose for this, or you can improvise it, just by moving one stop a little bit, a completely different world can appear. So you have with this I think, this technique of having a half-drawn stop produces a lot of very fascinating effects. What you can also do, but this is much harder, is you can also just press the keys half or partially, but this is very hard to control, huh? But it's possible. you see, it's like this would be the normal sound. So if you can combine these. Simple, very small, let's say, manipulations, it can be actually the greatest effects I think come from small manipulations. There's one thing that I haven't shown here. So you can, as I said, each box, so to speak, is one particular instrument, and you have here the coupling, so you can couple them together. For instance, if you play, if you pull this one, this means that I play on the lower manual, but I can play at the same time with this manual as well. So here the sound comes from back here, even though I play on the lower manual. Do you understand? You look. Or maybe it's easier to see. Sometimes it depends on the technique. Sometimes you see that the keys of the other manual are moving, but this is actually what is happening. If I pull this stop here, put it up there, then I can. This comes from here. It comes from here, but now I play on the lowest manual. And it's still this sound. It should actually, the sound should come from here. So what you can do is you can then mix sounds from different manuals, or you can just make the sound louder by coupling everything together. Now I have the A group comes from here. Okay, I don't know if you can localize it. It's definitely from here. Or maybe it's easy to show it. Let's this one. This comes from here, and this comes from here. So you can now couple these together. Depends on, sometimes you want a specific combination of sounds and it's not available on one manual, so you couple them together. And as I said, you can of course also use them if you want. For instance, if you want a kind of romantic string sound, when you have only 8-foot stops. So you can, for instance, do something like this. You just put together all the 8-foot stops. So you hear it's only 8-foot. There's no 4-foot with it. So you get this idea of like a string orchestra. So you have all. So you press one key, but like I don't know, 8 different pipes are playing the same pitch, and that's why you get this kind of string type of sound. And of course, this works much better if you're downstairs. Here it's too direct, but if you go down, it really has this kind of string orchestra quality. But that's one of the functions that you have to when you use the couplings that you create this type of sound structure. Okay, so this. Just one. I showed you the swells, the couplings.
Sorry, you didn't press the left, just the right.
These two?
Are they the same?
Yeah. Okay. No, this one. That's here. Is this one? And the left one is for the Fernwerk.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
this is like. You see how they come. So I press now. So it's, yeah, this is what I call the form. Yeah, and exactly. There's one more thing that I usually have. For instance, now for the pieces that I'm going to play, I prepare registrations, and you can something like this. So you press one button, and then the whole. This is not mine. Automatized change of stops. No? That can be, usually it's just used practically, but you can also use it if you want to, yeah, as an effect that you can use while playing. Okay. So, did I forget anything? I mean, there's one other thing that you could do, but people won't be very happy about it. You can, if you put things next to the pipes, you can influence the sound of the pipe, but you have to be very careful never to touch the pipe. I mean, you could show, it's easier for instance here. You have slide pipes here. And then if you put some paper or something else next to the ladium, you can control a little bit the sound. This is I don't know which. Maybe can you help me just tell me which pipe produces here? I don't know exactly. I don't know which one. It's somewhere in, so you have to look for the pipe where it is, and then you can influence the sound. This is not a bit risky, so you don't want this part. Yeah, so then maybe it would be time for you to ask questions.
Is there something to be done for half coupling?
No,
it's fine enough for the coupling.
I mean, we can try, but usually it's really on and off. So, and also, this would be very, very hard to control. Yes. So, I have never used it, and because usually it's not really working. But you might be lucky. When this is the thing with organs, each instrument is really different. And when you improvise, you can explore and exploit the specific qualities of an instrument.
Well,
I was just thinking, like, if it is really different from instrument to instrument, then how do you, when you are composing for organ, how do you define what kind of stops you want or what kind of sound?
There are different philosophies about this. Messiaen, for instance, he always wrote exactly the stops that he had at his organ. And this is quite useful because as an organist, you read this and then you understand what kind of sound you want. And then you have to look at your instrument and try to figure out how can I create something similar. So I think this is a meaningful way to notate for organ. The other is that what I sometimes also do, I don't write the precise name, but I say, okay, this should be flutes, or this should be strings, or this should be reeds. So to give just like soft reeds or something like this. So that organists understand, okay, this type of sound, and then we have to look at the instrument, what the instrument offers us. And of course, in the traditional early music, there is usually no indication at all, because there were also like standardized ways of using stops. So if you had a specific toccata form, you knew what kind of stops you would pull. If you had a specific kind of trio sonata, you knew automatically what type of sounds you would use. So even though, like in works by Bach, also there is nothing indicated, I think people from the period knew quite well what kind of sounds he wanted, because it was kind of standardized. Yeah. But I mean, I think sometimes it's, as I said, it's quite useful to, if you write a piece for organ, go to a specific organ and then you just write what you want on this specific organ, and then this is a very good source of information for an organist. Yeah.
I was wondering if you ever play here in a liturgical context on this organ.
I mean, when I was a student, I played sometimes in liturgical context. Now I'm not in that anymore, or only very rarely.
Would you improvise in as free a way when you were playing?
Yes, I mean, I'm not, I mean, yeah, more or less. Yeah, I mean, it's of course functional. No? People have to, they want to sing their songs.
Yes.
And if you play something that makes it impossible for them to sing the song, I didn't just play the settings that are in the organ book, but still I try to play in a way that is easy to sing. I mean, otherwise it doesn't make sense, no? But for the intro and I use things, but I think what you're talking about is really a problem with liturgical music, that it's usually very boring, very conservative, and it's very hard to introduce really, interesting sound structures into it. And but it's also a fault, I think, of many church musicians, because it's their taste that is usually very conservative and prevents more openness.
It could be, and I'm sure that some people would find it very interesting to have these kinds of new sounds.
Yeah.
In also.
I mean, you get different reactions. Some people like it, and some people complain.
So when you compose the organ and for organ and other instruments, so how do you keep balance between these different instruments? For example, the organ is pretty big and very distant from the stage, and how any tips from rehearsing or composing with ensemble and organ?
I mean, of course, the organ is the softest and the loudest instrument at the same time. I mean, if you hear this, there's hardly any instrument that can play as soft as this, no? So you have already in an organ a wide range. And I think it's, of course, the organ is built for the space that it is set in. And so if you take a piece that was meant to be played in the chamber music context, and then you put it in the church, I mean, it's a problem of the piece, no? So I think it's not so much the problem what you do with the organ, but how you think of the piece, what kind of space you want to have for the piece. And the organs are usually quite versatile, so that you can have between 4P and 4Fs everything that is possible. So I think it's really about your concept of the piece and the space. I mean, in general, if you think of a large cathedral and then you want to write a piece for violin solo, this is already, I mean, you have to work with that. And the organ is kind of part of the space. I would think it as a furniture in the space, and you have to accommodate this. Yeah. But I mean, the organ has been used for centuries as a chamber music instrument, like all this basso continuo, all this like basso de organo in the 16th, 17th century. So it was always part of a group of musicians. So it's not necessary. I mean, of course, when you play fortissimo, it's hard to play with no one else, no? But that's not necessary. No?
When you turn the door on, it resets everything.
Yeah, this is unfortunate because it has this electric.
But it's not like that.
It doesn't need. They afterwards they built in this electrical setting thing. If this is not here, it's not usually not the case that it. That's the problem with the organ. You say it's usually not like this, but then you go to a place and you find it's exactly the way you wouldn't expect it. Yeah.
And when it's not electric, somebody is.
That's for centuries. That's what people like. You have usually when you write a piece. When you perform a piece, you need to spend a day or two in the church and just figure out how to instrument the piece, and you make a clear plan, and then that's why you have these numbers here. And then in the score, there is like when you want to change, you just write a new set of numbers, and then usually you have to have 2 or 3 assistants to do this for you, because you're already busy with all your limbs, and then you need people to support you with this. And that's the idea of this system, that you just press one button and then the whole registration changes. But it's a very, I mean, and when I studied organ, colleagues always have had to help each other, and that's the worst thing that to help somebody, because you have all the responsibility. I mean, it can really completely ruin everything if you pull the wrong stops or pull them at the wrong moment. You don't get any recognition, but you bear all the responsibility. So, yeah. Any other questions, or if you want to try something, of course you're welcome to yourself. Maybe if somebody wants to play a few notes, please. Don't be shy. Doesn't bite. Please. Yes. But you have to first understand where they work. So for instance, this is the principle on the yeah. So all these stops go to the manual. Starting from here down here. And this is the pedals. This is the remote, yeah. And then the very left is the wires. Yeah, this is the sweat. This is the 2 lower. This is what we see in this store. What do you want?
I don't know.
So you choose like 60 foot here, and then you press the lowest note. Yeah. That's the lowest note. Yeah, you can. Either you play like 9 seconds, or can you step on the lowest note in the pedal? Because she wants to answer. So it's like tinnitus. So now you can. Same way you can control your fingers and also touch the paper. I mean, that's why we're practicing for a long time. When you sit, it's not really the way you sit in the market. Also, I mean, you see, I have walking shoes, they're a little bit different. Sneakers are not the ideal. Yeah. Anyone else? Let's see.